G'day and welcome back to another Pokemon Nuzlocke video. This is probably our second to last video, and yeah, we're starting off obviously beaten Gruden, really cool, yeah, great, but here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, okay, we 100% have to grind. Now, a lot of people don't tend to understand this, but the big issue with Nuzlocke is two things. One, obviously you lose Pokemon that you've invested time into, that have gained EVs, that you've potentially used items or TMs on. But secondly, Pokemon games before you beat the Elite Four have very finite sources of EXP. The games only have so many trainers. Chances are you've probably beaten every single trainer on your way to get to where you are. Most players don't skip trainers, it just doesn't happen. Obviously, naturally, people are inclined to kind of sink their EXP into their starter, who we lost. So yeah, and grinding wild Pokemon is such an ineffective EXP gain, but we're going to have to do a lot of that. So there's going to be a lot of cut footage of that. We'll be doing it, and I'll try and show you or kind of, talk through it, but we're going to be doing a lot of grinding. So before we even take on Wallace, we're going to first grind the oceans. So very simply put, we're catching whatever Pokemon we can now. We only have I think 3 routes left that we can realistically catch Pokemon on quite easily. So that's important. The reason being is we need backup Pokemon should we decide to attempt the Elite Four again if we fail. Although I think, to be honest, if I fail the Elite Four, yeah, I'm not doing it again. But yeah, so the big thing is you get this last EXP. So all the Pokemon we've lost, the Trents, the Travises, the Kippies, all of these Pokemon, not so much the ones we didn't invest time into or that just kind of like the sacrifice, he wasn't sunk EXP. But the thing is all of these Pokemon kind of like lose the EXP that we've gained for them. And this kind of sucks in a lot of ways because we then tend to lose out a lot on the EXP we could have had. So to cut a long story short, we're losing sources of EXP, and because we're losing those sources of EXP, we're now starting to kind of struggle actually when it comes down to grinding, being able to have enough EXP to get our Pokemon to the level they need to be. So it's important in a lot of ways, and losing so many Pokemon, especially losing our starter, lost us a lot of net EXP. Which is going to be basically all having to be found through grinding. So we can't get it in any other source. We basically are just going to have to grind and grind and grind and grind. But yeah, so it's okay. You can see obviously we're pushing on, so we're going to Palapagos town. We're going to be pushing through quite a few areas to obviously get our hands on whatever EXP we can, facing whatever trainers we can, trying to make our way through against those trainers, trying to improve our Pokemon, try and grab rare candies. We're going to be fighting every wild Pokemon we come across, and we're going to be flying back to cities, making sure that we grab ourselves some healing, we visit Pokemart. And yeah, we're also trying to get money because we're gonna need items for the Elite Four. 100%, we're gonna need items for the Elite Four. So yeah, there's just a lot that we need to do, and it's not that we can't do it. It's just that it is difficult with one typing. So yeah, it is something we're gonna have to do, but we do manage to grind enough, or at least a little bit. We're gonna have to grind basically every Pokemon, not into the 50s, that would be insane to do that before taking on the Elite Four. But we're going to try and grind every Pokemon at least into the 40s. We need them to realistically take a hit. Now that Marvin is definitely our go-to Pokemon, them being able to take a hit is kind of like the minimum thing that they need to do. So if they can take a hit, then basically we're good to go. So as long as they don't instantly die, obviously they could still instantly die to like crits or something, but as long as we get the ability to survive, so that we can potentially front load or heal our front dealing unit, then I think we'll be okay. Obviously, it's not the only solution. Hopefully they can partake and provide. But yeah, so one of the ways we're going to be grinding EXP is fighting older trainers, or trainers we fought before. And one of the best ways to do that is actually these interviewers. So the interviewers spawn in like 3 very specific routes, and you face them every single time, and they're a double battle every single time. So obviously the big benefit here is you're essentially doubling your XP because you're facing them with 2 Pokemon. Obviously they're giving you 2 Pokemon. So this was one of the main methods I used to kind of gain EXP, especially for like a lot of my substitute Pokemon or my like backup Pokemon. This was like kind of like the #1 method I had for grinding them. So that was definitely very important. I went and visited the move tutor, but honestly speaking, there was nothing that I could get on any of my Pokemon that kind of made me like really feel, feel like it was worth it. It was okay, a lot of the stuff, but there wasn't anything that felt like it was going to change my life. Like it was going to change how like my battles went. There was no secret ability that was going to all of a sudden just explain away my pain or be like so useful that I just couldn't live without it. So yeah, that was a little bit of a shame, but I mean, it is what it is. Like you can't really do anything. You can't really do anything about that. So yeah. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the main kind of premise I want to establish here is that we're grinding. You can see, like, we got a lot of levels, and then we went back and we fought Mai. And the reason we fought Mai is because we need access to the superstore. Need access to the superstore because, obviously, we need to be able to buy the TMs from there, which is obviously super important. So that was something that had to be done, and yeah, just like a lot of grinding. Just there was also additional EXP. You can see me, I'm using this Numo to just beef up my Pokemon, and you're going to see this strategy in full effect during the Elite Four. There are certain Pokemon in certain fights, in the Elite Four and in general, that do not do necessarily a lot. So they don't do a lot of damage to us, or they don't have any significant move sets or anything like that. So basically, we are going to use them to just batter them. So we're just literally going to, I don't want to say beat them up, but yeah, basically we're going to instill discipline in them by, let's just say, using them to beef ourselves up, to roid ourselves up, basically. And by doing so, we're going to be able to pretty much effectively take out most trainers. It's not necessarily the most honorable strat, but at this point as well, you got to remember, we've been doing this Nuzlocke for a very long time. Like, even with the speed boost from the emulator, a lot of the grinding is just like a long, it's still like a 15-20 hour experience. I'm not gonna lie, it's not long. I mean, it's enjoyable actually. I really enjoy Pokemon games, so it's not that big an issue to me, but it's just very interesting because of, obviously, all of the extra grinding you have to do to try and get EXP, to try and stay ahead of the curve, and you've lost your Pokemon, and usually that wouldn't exist. Like, you would just have your starter, and your starter will become overpowered, and then you'd catch the legendary, and you'd have 2 overpowered Pokemon, and yeah, you just wouldn't really have any major issues. So to kind of like do a Nuzlocke is a very different kind of grind, very different kind of speed, or way of playing the game, and it's part of the reason why I think players like it so much, because it's such a change from like the pace of like a normal Pokemon game. And I think that's something that is really enjoyable, or at least I find is probably one of the most enjoyable aspects of a Nuzlocke, is that aspect of like you're going to have to play Nuzlockes differently to other Pokemon games. I don't usually use items in other Pokemon games, or like traditionally before when I used to play Pokemon, I never used an item. I just let my starter do all the work. So it was a very interesting, it's always an interesting change up. So if you're someone who's played Pokemon the same way for 20 years, give it a try. So we finally get ready to take on the gym, but here's the thing, we're going to take on all of the trainers. So we make sure we go to the final area, but we're going to make sure that we also take on every single trainer. And the reason being is, of course, EXP. So EXP, obviously super duper important overall to have good sources of EXP, and I think it is something that you have to get. So we have to grind out, we have to get that EXP, we have to farm it up because we need it, otherwise we're not going to have the success ultimately against the Elite Four. So this is just something we're going to have to do. But yeah, so obviously we finally take on the gym leader. Water type Pokemon, so it's not really a major issue for us because we don't have any huge problems. Wishcash is a bit of an issue. He has Earthquake, which can cause some problems, but he chooses not to use it, which is very thankful for us. And then from there we've got Thunderbolt, and Thunderbolt's going to help us out a lot. Why did you teach your Gyarados Thunderbolt? You're going to see Thunderbolt basically be a very helpful move for Gyarados to know, not only for this section, but also for later sections. So like for the Elite Four, the Thunderbolt's going to come in handy. The reason being is simply it's a decent-ish damage move with decent PP of 15, but it also has the ability to paralyze. So it's kind of doing a lot for us as Pokemon trainers, I guess. And yeah, I'm not saying it's the best move in the game, but it's really helpful because of that fact. Because it's good damage, because it's got the ability to paralyze, because it can do so much. It's in effect a very good, very effective move. So yeah, beyond that, once we defeat the gym, once we beat Wallace, it's now time to learn Waterfall and to obviously make our way over to Victory Road. So yeah, obviously now we want to make our way to Victory Road. We need Waterfall. In Victory Road, we are going to grind. So Victory Road, we are going to grind. We are going to step out and occasionally use my method of fighting the two interviewers. But Victory Road, we are going to grind. Victory Road has a ton of trainers. It has a ton of Pokemon that are a decent level 40, level 38, level 36. And the evolved forms of these Pokemon we can defeat most times with 1 or 2 hits. And one of the main things is the ability to beat them in 1 or 2 hits, but they also give like 900 EXP, which isn't going to be huge for Marvin so much, but it is going to be huge for every other Pokemon we have. So essentially what we will be doing is, for the most part, basically using this section of the game to farm our final bits of EXP for the final step against the Elite Four. So we're going to grind. A lot of it is going to be off screen because it is not an enjoyable grind. It is a wild Pokemon grind. So it's going to be wild Pokemon until I run out of PP. Then I'm going to be exiting and I'll be leaving, obviously, to then go to the trainers, the interviewers, and then I'll be flying back. So it'll be like in a giant big circuit thing almost, and basically it'll be an excuse for me to kind of just, yeah, do a big old circle of training. And it's not going to be great. We're going to mainly be working super hard to get a lot of the other Pokemon up into the 40s. So it's not going to be a process to level up Marvin so much, although Marvin will gain levels naturally because we're going to be doing the switch out method, because remember, we can't use EXP share in a Nuzlocke, or at least in my Nuzlocke. So yeah, we're going to have to be switching in and out until they get to the point where they can start to take out 1 or 2 Pokemon on their own, then continue the switching out method. So yeah, I will be also using the daycare for a couple levels as well, switching the Pokemon in and out of the daycare wherever possible to try and not only get some free XP on them, but also just, basically get some free XP, which is, again, it is what it is, but sometimes, you really have to do these kind of things, because otherwise you are just going to end up being super duper underleveled. Like I said, especially earlier on, talking about lost EXP, because we lost so much EXP, it's just something we're going to have to do. So you can see here on the screen, we've got all the evolutions popping off. Wallace is evolving, Spence is evolving. Spence is probably going to be our second most valuable Pokemon, with a decent special attack and the ability to know Earthquake and Blizzard. He is going to come in clutch during some fights, and Wallace also should be pretty useful because of his tankiness. So a lot of health on him, not so much a lot of defense, but a lot of health, which is great. Chinchin's probably going to just be a sacrificial lamb, low-key, high-key. Chinchin is probably just going to be a sacrificial lamb, because there's no outward need for him. I think the Ice Trainer has a couple water Pokemon, but Gyarados is probably, Spence and Marvin are probably going to take them out, so that's going to be our main thing. But yeah, we end everything off with our final fight against Wally, but because we've been on that grind like the kings that we are, he's not that difficult. Also, realistically, he doesn't pose a huge threat. So he's got mainly Psychic type Pokemon. This Altaria isn't a huge problem, at least not overall. Obviously you can kind of see there, okay, Thunderbolt, okay, cool. The Magneton's a bit of an issue, but Spence knows Earthquake, which is obviously going to be super duper helpful. And yeah, that's basically everything done. Ready to take on the Elite Four, doing everything pretty well, and honestly speaking, it was a good run. I think we're ready to take on the Elite Four, and yeah, we'll have to get some items and prep. We'll definitely need to get some X speeds and everything, but yeah, definitely going to be ready to take things on and to hopefully get success. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this section, and see you very, very soon.